Okay, so now we're moving on to the next exercise. We are in 02.2, the CSS review. This is what we have called at El Centro Assignment 2 for a long time, and that's why you're going to see this picture here. It says Assignment 2, and it shows you what the page is going to look like in the end. This has some buttons here on the side, and then it's got some text that's in a transparent area. There's a background in both the top and behind the text. We have a header in the top and we have a footer. We have more images here and there. There's about 4 images, and I will show you in a separate video how to get the images in. This video is going to show you how to get started. I'm going to work through a couple of things in a recipe that I'll be showing you, and then it's up to you to complete the rest. It shouldn't really take too long because with a little bit of what you already know plus the recipe directions, you should be able to complete the page and make it go from this to something like this. So let me look at the directions below here, read them out with you. We're going to be creating a week 2 folder. I told you before that we're going to be linking to several weeks. This is week 2. This is the assignment that goes with this week. We're going to copy the HTML code that's provided above. That's this one right here. Just going to be a copy and paste type of thing. We're going to save that file. That's what that means, confirm. Inside of this week 2 folder that we're creating, we're going to also to create a styles.css file so that everything that you do for this assignment, that's actually what I'll be checking. It's going to be the styles.css. Tell you here how to get it started. Then how you have to follow the recipe, and then finally, once you're done with all the coding, add a link to this page from your index page, the one that you created in the last lesson. I'm sure that there's a couple of things that I'll have to interject at some point after, but for now, this is how you get started. First, I'm going to open up a new tab in my Chrome, and I'm going to go to github.com. Here I have my repository, which is the github.io page. Once again, the github.com is what we use to do all the editing. The github.io is our web page that we're actually working on. So I'm going to slide down here. I see my index page, the README, that all it has is got this README markdown file. I'm going to create a new file. Something that I might have skipped in the previous video, but only because if you follow the lessons from the beginning, we created index.html before the last video. So here I'm going to create a new file. And as I said before, this one is going to be styles.css. And if I have not said it before, and I'm sure I have, always use lowercase when naming files. In this case, I'm going to say styles, S-T-Y-L-E-S .css. There's no spaces in file names, and there's no uppercase. Yes, you can have them, but it's been my experience that students tend to not pay attention and not remember when they use uppercase and lowercase. If you do use a space, you will get errors that will be troublesome later. HTML is very forgiving, but it's always going to come back to bite you. Now, I just went ahead and did the styles.css, but I did mention earlier, actually the directions tell you, that you have to create a new folder. And in order to create a new folder, that's called week 2, in GitHub it works this way, although I have not pressed enter yet, which is a good thing. Just before styles, I need to tell it, hey, this is a link that takes you to another folder. So I have to here tell it week number 2, or just week 2, no spaces, no uppercase, and then add a slash. By adding the slash, this week 2 folder appears. So now inside of my repository, which is called itsu20.github.io, yours is going to be your username.github.io. There's a folder called week 2, and inside of this folder called week 2, there's now a file that's going to be called styles.css. I'm going to scroll down, and this is once again my editor. And here I'm going to copy what's on point number 4, that we need to get the CSS started with this text. I'm going to highlight the text, add character set UTF-8, that's just standard character set, and then just a comment that says this is a CSS document. I'm going to right click and copy that, go back to this file that I'm working on, and I'm going to paste it. And what's I always forget, I have to click and press Ctrl V as in Victor, and that pastes it. Okay, so now I'm going to, just to make sure that this is actually working, I'm going to commit this new file that saves it onto the server. And I have a styles.css file that's inside of itsu20.github.io that holds this folder called week 2. If I click on the repository, my home address basically, it'll take me back to show me what is in the server. In the server I have my index file, that's the one that points to all the files that are going to be in my assignments for this course, including stuff that's inside of this folder called week 2. Inside of week 2, if I click on it, there's a styles.css that I just created. Before we move forward, also, we have to copy this HTML, and I know I'm doing it out of order, but bear with me. We're going to copy the HTML that's in the assignment. It's all the way to the top here. It's everything that's inside this box. It starts with line number 1. I'm clicking and dragging, and I'm coming all the way down to the last tag there, which is the HTML. So lines 1 through 52 are completely selected, and I'm going to right click and copy. Come back in my tab to GitHub. I'm inside of week 2. Make sure you're inside of week 2 when you're working in this assignment. Make sure you were inside of week 2 when you created styles.css. And very important that you're here when you create another file. Create a new file. You're already in week 2, so you don't have to type it. I'm just going to say index.html. Don't we already have an index.html? We do, but it's inside of another folder. It's ideal to call your index pages, your home pages, index.html, because that way the browser will know that that's the starting point of your site. Now, I already copied the text that I said I was going to copy, so I'm clicking inside of this white area, and I'm going to press Ctrl V, V as in Victor, to paste it. All of this code has already been typed up, and there's not too many changes here, except that I would ask that maybe, just to make sure that I know we're in the right year together, this is assignment 2. It's actually 2.2, I think. I'm going to rename this, or just retype the code there and call it CSS Designer. So my line 10 has a header 1 that says CSS Designer inside. I should already have the code up here in line 6 that says link href assignment 2 styles.css. This is also from an older time, so make sure that here this is only styles.css inside of the quotes. I'm deleting that word so that link href equals styles.css is everything that it says inside of the link. My title is CSS Designer, and that's fine. That's just going to go on top of the page, which works well. And I'm scrolling down, and I'm not going to be too concerned about this just yet, because most of the fun, most of the action is going to be taking place in the CSS. I'm going to commit the file. And while I'm at it in this video, I might as well help you out and tell you how you can quickly add things to your index. Well, I didn't need to go back this far, and this is went all the way back to my user, but I just wanted to go back to my repository. And in the index.html page, here I told you that we have week 1, actually week 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're in week 2 right now. So I'm going to click on the pencil so that it shows me coding area. I'm here in week 2. I'm going to add a colon inside of that list item and say CSS Designer. I also added in the assignment a link on point number 6, adding a link to the week 2 content from your main index. That's the one I just opened. That to reference you can reference HTML links in this W3 Schools link. I'm going to click on that so that it takes me to W3 Schools, And this tells you all about HTML links and how they work. Once again, this is a review of HTML. This is very basic HTML. You just need to add a link. A link works like this, that you have to give it, hey, open up an anchor. Give it a reference point to where you want it to go and then what you want it to say. So I'm going to copy this and come back. Don't pause the video to come back and see what this says. Just go and open up the page, copy this text, and then go back to your assignment. Find what you want to link, which is this words here, week 2 to CSS Designer. I'm going to be right before the W in week 2, and I'm going to paste what I just copied. This is the link. ahref is equal to the URL, and then the link text. Well, the link text should be everything else that week 2 CSS Designer says. So I can just select all that text, cut it, and replace the link text by highlighting it and pasting what I just copied. So now I have a list item that has a link, that's the anchor there, to the URL that I have not defined yet, but it's going to say week 2 CSS Designer. What's the URL? Well, I know that my page is my username, which is idtsu20.github.io, right? And in here I created a folder that's called week 2. So I'm going to type in week 2 and I'm going to put in / and then index.html, which is just been created. I'll press enter and that code that I copied and pasted creates this page. More importantly though, I have this URL up here, my username.github.io /week2 /index.html. I'm going to highlight that and I'm going to copy it. You can press Ctrl+C for copy or right click and copy. Go back to the GitHub page, and this URL that it's asking for, what I just copied, I'm going to paste it there. So now my code reads, in my unordered list, I have a list item that links an anchor to this URL, the one I just pasted, and it's going to say week 2 CSS Designer. It's going to close the anchor and then it's going to close the list item. Later on, you'll be able to just copy all this and replace it on week 3 with the new links. I'll show you that when we get to it. I'm going to slide down to commit changes, and I'm hoping that this page is going to be saved. How will I know? Well, this page is already there. Now we'll do all the CSS coming up. But in the meantime, I can go just to my page, idtsu20.github.io, and you can go to your username.github.io page and run it. I told you before that this is not an immediate process, so it might take some time. I'm going to reload this and I'm going to give it a minute. I'm going to pause the video while I wait. I'll tell you how long I have to wait before it loaded. I've been lucky before, but not right now. Okay, I went to check my email and I got something that was not important. That took about half a minute, 30 seconds. I'm going to reload, and now my page has a week 2 CSS Designer link. If I click on this, it's going to open up the CSS Designer. When we're done with this, we'll also have a link at the bottom that takes us back to the home page. So I'm going to stop here for this video, and in the next video I'm going to tell you how to look at the recipe and start to make this page right here, the CSS Designer, look like the page that's given in the sample, this one right here.